Oh, hello, everybody. Hello to all my subscribers, and welcome to the Garlets High Performance Garage channel. Just a couple things I want to talk about. First, we're going to talk about the video I'm going to post. It's another one from the archives, as I like to call it. It is of the 1978 Olds Omega that I used to have. Let me see, I got it back in, I want to say '05, I think. Yeah, something like that. A guy I worked with, just to give you a little bit of information on it. I worked at Hunter Douglas back then. And I worked in the silhouette shades department. I cut the aluminum rails on the saw. And you put labels on them. You know, you pick the color, you cut it to size, whatever. Well, our warehouse guy, I'm not going to say his full name. His name is Jim. Everybody called him Jimmy. He had an Oldsmobile Omega sitting in his yard. And he says, I have a car sitting in my yard. I want you to take a look at. I'm like, okay. So I said, well, what kind of car is it? Well, I don't know. You'll have to come look at it. I said, what the fuck do you mean you don't know what kind of car it is? I said, some foreign fucking job? I said, because if it is, I don't want the son of a bitch. I'm not interested. No. I said, what is it? I said, is it a Ford? I said, is it a Dodge? Is it a GM? What is it? Oh, well, it's GM. You should come look at it. I said, you don't know what it is. I said, you've had cars. You've had Monte Carlos and shit. Pickup trucks. I said, you have no idea what kind of fucking cars it is. Well, it's like a Nova. It's like a Chevy Nova. I said, okay. I said, we're getting closer. I said, so you have a Chevy Nova in your yard sitting? No, it's an Oldsmobile. I said, oh, okay. I said, so it's an Omega. And he's like, yeah, that's what it is. You know, fucking acting like a dumbass. Acting like, he's clear baffled and stupid, like you don't know what the fuck it is. He knew exactly what it was. So he says, come look at it and see what you think. He says, got a V6 in it. It's an automatic. He said, it's in real good shape. Interior's nice, all that shit. And I was like, Red flags started coming up in my head. What the fuck's wrong with this fucking car? So I went down to his house that following weekend to look at it. I saw it in the yard sitting, and it had been sitting there for a couple of weeks, it looked like, because the grass was growing up around and stuff. The tires were still pumped up on it. They weren't flat or nothing. And I says, okay. I said, does it run? Oh, yeah, it runs. He put a battery in it. He went in, pumped it a couple times, hit the switch, fired up and idled, I was looking at the catalyst sticker on the radiator support, and it said it was a 231 V6 with a turbo 350 transmission. It didn't have the lockup converter or nothing. It's not a shitty fucking 350C, or a 250, because they made a turbo 250 as well that has the turbo 350 fucking pan on it, but it just says metric across the bottom of the pan. Anyway, I looked at it and stuff, and I said, what do you want for it? I don't know. I tell you what. He said, just haul it out of here. I don't want it. Just haul it out of here. Like, okay. I looked at it real good and everything. It had a fucking wasp nest in it. I'd knocked it on the ground and stepped on it. It's a pretty big one. It was about as big as my hand, Swiped it off there and stomped it in the dirt. And I said, okay. I said, well, I have to get somebody to come here and haul it away. So I got my cousin Mike down there. He had a gooseneck trailer. Yeah, I think it was a gooseneck trailer. And he's like, yeah, I can go down and get it. I said, I'll buy your fuel. So you go down there and get it. Okay, yeah, we can do that. So we went up there. Well, then more truth start coming out about the car. He says, well, I don't have a title. I said, what? But I can get it for you. My mom has the title. I said, okay. I said, you gonna bring his title to work? Yeah, I'll bring it to work with me. Give it to you. I'll sign it. You know, all you gotta do is sign it, and you can write in there what you paid for, whatever. I said, just give me a bill of sale, and just say I paid like $500 for it, because that's the minimum in the state of Maryland. It's $500, and that's what you have to pay taxes on $500, because the state's got to run one up your ass on every fucking thing. That's why I hate Maryland, because it sucks ass when it comes to taxes, because they tax you, deaf, dumb, and blind on everything. So we get the car, we load it up, I bring it home here. I fired it up, running up and down the road. It run okay. It's kind of a dog, because it was just a V6, like, I don't know, 130 horsepower, something like that. And I still had my black 83 Chevy truck, and it was sitting around out here in the driveway. I had started tearing it apart, taking parts off of it that I wanted, because I was junking the thing, and I should have kept the damn thing, because the cab was really good on it. All I had to do was put cab corners and rockers, and the fucking floorboards, you scraped the dirt away and still had shiny paint on them. I was a dumbass for getting rid of that truck. But anyhow, I had a bed off the 78 GMC that I put on it, or I swapped them, and I ended up tagging up the A3. But that's a different story. But anyway, there was a 305 in that 83, and I thought, I'm going to take that out of the truck, put new gaskets in it, because that's the reason I parked the truck. The oil just poured out of it, because I never put new gaskets in that engine. It was all RTV silicone. I put RTV silicone on the oil pan, valve covers, intake, everywhere. It was nothing but, the only thing it really had was head gaskets on it, because you got to have those. But Tom and chain cover, oil pan, valve covers, silicone. I think I had intake gaskets there where they joined the head. But the front and back, I never put those gaskets on, because they're garbage. I always line it with silicone anyway, the front and back of the intake, the small block Chevys. And they got the dumping oil out of the front of the pan, where it seals to the Tom chain cover. So I took it off the road, and I thought, what I'll do is I'll take this 305 out of here, and I'll put it in the Omega. Then I got to looking at the bell housing on a transmission. It had a Pontiac, Buick, and Oldsmobile bell housing hookup on it. So, which the Chevy stands by itself. It has the one pattern. But they make spacers too. They make a spacer that you can put in there and change the pattern, which I have one. If I ever run onto a Pontiac transmission I want to use on a Chevy, I can, because I got the plate. But anyway, another guy I worked with, he had two Turbo 350 transmissions that were remanufactured by the J.C. Whitney Corporation, and he wanted $100 for these two transmissions. They were two Turbo 350s. They were ready to go. They were fresh, brand new transmissions, and they had both bell housing. On the bell housing, they had both patterns on the bell housing. I'd never seen that before, but they had it. And I thought, wow, that's fucking awesome. It could bolt up to Pontiac or Chevy without an adapter plate. So anyhow, I took that transmission, I took the pan off of it, took the valve body off, put the shift kit plate in there with the enlarged hole. That's all I did with it. And I put it all back together. Put it in there with the 305. And I had it running. And no title still. My dad told me I was crazy for putting money into a car that I don't have a title to. So I was like, yeah, you're right. So I thought, how am I going to get this title? Because Jim kept coming back to work empty-handed. Oh, she's looking for it. I'll find it. I said, motherfucker, I said, since I've done work to this car and put money into it, I said, I was real close to bringing it back to your house while you weren't there one day and dumping it off in your fucking driveway and saying, fuck you. Because a car with no title is worthless. And I'm not a garage business. I can't get a title. Because they think that you're trying to steal shit. In this state here, if you ask to print a title out, they need information from the previous owners that have titled it last. And they fuck you over with that shit. But anyhow, he kept giving me the runaround about the title. Well, then the truth started coming out about the car. More truth started coming out. It was, Jim had bought it off a friend of his for his mother. Because his mother needed a car. She needed to get around. So, and lo and behold, when I was picking up the Oldsmobile at his house, not to get off the trail here, but just one little thing about that. There was an 80s model Thunderbird there. One of the real good looking ones from the 80s. It was silver and it had a 302 in it. And it was equivalent to that XR7 that Mercury made, a Mercury Cougar. It was the same thing, but it was a Thunderbird. It was a Ford. It had the fuel injected 302 from the Mustang in it, and it had an automatic transmission. I think it was a C6, or it was an AOD. I think it was an AOD, like it's in Grandma out here. So I seen this car, and it had the Mustang turbo type wheels on it, and I was like, because I asked Jim, I was like, whose car is that? Oh, that's just a car I got here. I'm just working on it for somebody. Oh, okay. Well, lo and behold, that was his mom's car. See what had happened, Jim got this Oldsmobile for his mom. She said it was ugly. She didn't like how shitty it ran. She didn't like the car, and he figured it was his mom. It was good enough. She could have it. Well, she said, fuck no, and she found this Thunderbird that she wanted, so she went and got the Thunderbird. And Jim's sister and the guy she was with at the time drug this Thunderbird home, and they were going to get it through inspection so their mother could run it. Well, it didn't pass inspection, so she told Jimmy, come get my Thunderbird and repair these things that the inspection shop said to repair on it. So that's what he was doing. He was working on that car. And lo and behold, what he was actually doing is he was holding the Thunderbird captive. He was still going to try and pawn that Olds off on his mother, but she wouldn't go for it. So he got all pissed off. And he actually had left the Oldsmobile at his mom's house in the driveway. This was before it ended up in his yard. So his sister, she says, I know a guy that has a Chevy Nova he's fixing up, and the front fenders are the same on those cars. Which they are. The front fenders are exactly alike. So she says, I'm going to let him have this Oldsmobile so he can fix his Nova up, this special friend she had. Well, turned out Jimmy found out what happened, got all pissed off, and apparently Jimmy's mom did have the title, and she gave it to her daughter to give to the guy that they were giving the Olds to. I hope I'm not confusing anybody, but this was before I picked it up. So then what had happened was he got all pissed off. See what happened when I was on my travels here to find the title. My friend up here that has the Trans Am, the guy I went to school with, he was related to the guy that was seeing Jimmy's sister that had the Oldsmobile at the time. She had the title in hand. And she says, and I remember this girl because she used to tend bar around here because she was a good-looking girl. I remember her. And my friend's cousin was seeing her. He was nailing her at the time. They were living together. She says, I have the title of that car. And I talked to her on the phone, and I said, what do you want? What do you got to have for the title? I said, I got the car. I said, I already put a motor and transmission in it. And I want to tag the damn thing. I'm going to buy tires for it. I have a set of aluminum wheels I'm going to put on it. I'm going to run the car. She goes, you selling the car? I said, no, I'm not going to sell the car. Does Jimmy have anything in it? I said, no. I said, he is out of the picture. I said, he's lied to me enough about it. I said, I need that title to tag this car. She goes, I tell you what, she says, you come down to my house, have a couple of beers with me, and we'll talk about it. And I said, okay. I said, that sounds good to me. So, me and my buddy up here, we load up, we head down there to her house. She's out there with the tightest goddamn jeans you could possibly get your ass into. It looked like they was fucking painted on. I could see camel toe. So anyway, we're talking and bullshitting. She's getting hammered up, She's getting all touchy-feely. It's like, oh my God, I can't do this. I have a girlfriend. At the time I wasn't married. I was like, I have a girlfriend. I have a kid with her. We can't do this. And I was like, I just need the title to the car. I was like, how much do you want for the title? She goes, you seem like you're a pretty honest man. She says, I will just give you the title. She said, as long as it does not end up in Jimmy's hands, she said, I will come to your house and beat your ass. She said, I find out my brother has this car back. And I said, no. I said, he doesn't have it back. I said, he'll never have it back. I said, so I will take the title. I will make a new title, put it in my name, and I will tag it and run it. She's like, okay. But she told me she had a friend that wanted it for the fenders and the other parts off of it. And what happened, Jimmy got pissed off, found out that she had give this car away to this other guy that had the Nova, and he called the cops. They went to court over this car because his mommy wouldn't take it. They went to fucking court. He sued his sister and his mother over this car. Crazy shit. So the cops, they settled in court, and he got the car back, and she would not let go of the title to him because she knew he was going to try and make money on it. So she was being a bullhead keeping the title. The court never ordered her to give the title up. But what happened is the state cops went down with a rollback. They had a guy come down with a rollback. They scooped it up, took it to Jimmy's house, dumped it in the yard, and that's where it was sitting when I found it. She said she was so fucking mad, and they fought like cats and dogs over that fucking old piece of shit car. But she said it wasn't really the point of it, of the car itself. She said it was just the whole principle of the thing. She gave it to a good friend to see they could help him out so he could have parts to fix up the other car that he had because he didn't want to go out and buy fenders because they were kind of expensive. And the guy, he was a young guy and he didn't have a lot of money. So they were helping him out, because around here a lot of us do that. We'll help each other out with things like that. So anyhow, I got the title. I put the car in my name. I put historical tags on the car because it was old like me. At the time, I was in my 20s. So I was in my late 20s. I think I was 27. Yeah. I was 26 or 27. May have been 25. I don't know. But I titled it up. I tagged it up. Then I went to Surplus City down here and I bought Farm Implement paint, Massey Ferguson red, made with soybean oil. I sprayed that shit on that car, and it was a really nice paint job. It turned out so fucking nice. And back then, there was no ceiling in here. I was painting it where the Chevelle's sitting. And that was all open up there. Where that light is, that was all open in there. And I had 8 fucking squirrels coming in here back then. And I would actually sit, my dad had a 70 Chevy truck that sat here right where this truck's sitting at the time. And those squirrels would come in on the I-beam back there. This beam right here. It would come back. There's a gap in the wall back there. They would come through that gap every evening at the same time. Talk about squirrels having an act for time. They came in here one by one, chattered and hollered and made a big fuss and fucked around in here. So what I did was I hid in my dad's truck with a CO2 pistol I had. And I shot those sons of bitches. I thought I killed them all. I didn't kill them. I knocked one in the fucking wall back here. As he was in the corner, I could see the shininess of his eye sticking out through the cracks. I shot him in the eye. I shot one over here above the door. There was nothing there then, and he fell down in the wall right there. I heard him down in there, fucking crying. They were coming in my little room back here with all my fucking body parts in. They was coming in that room back there. They had a circle chewed in the ceiling, because I did have ceiling back there. I had ceiling back there for a while, but there was a big gap up here. Anyway, they were nesting in the 2 grills of my dad's GTO. They had little babies because they ripped all the newspaper off those shelves back there. Because when I was just a wee little kid, my mother kept canned food in there. That's why there's shelves in there. She kept canned food in there in mason jars and had newspapers over those shelves. I don't know why, but she did. She had newspapers over them shelves. Those squirrels tore those newspapers to pieces and made a fucking nest and had babies back there in the grills of Dad's GTO. And those little baby squirrels chewed the fuck out of that one grill as they were stacked on top of each other on top of the shelf. And while I was painting that Oldsmobile in here, I thought all the squirrels were gone. Well, apparently that paint made them delirious. I was so proud of the finish that I put on that thing. And I made some other mistakes too, I'll tell you about here in a minute. I ran down to get my dad because I wanted to show him. I was so proud of it. I went down there and got him. He come up. I said, look at that fucking shine on that bastard. I said, I never thought I could put a shine on anything. I wasn't planning on it looking like this. And it did. It shined like the Chevelle here does. Well, then I got back there and looking around, on the quarter panel on the passenger side. It had a dent in it, and it stretched the metal. I don't know what the fuck they hit or somebody backed into it. You could pop it out, and if you leaned against it, pop right back in. It did that over and over. Fucked it up. But I went ahead and painted it anyway. I painted the dent. Here, that squirrel got delirious on the ceiling truss, roof truss back there. Fell down and drug his claws down the side of that quarter panel. That motherfucker's hair was stuck to it and everything. I was plucking hairs out of that paint. But it took 3 months for that paint to fucking dry. on that car for it to set up. It was tacky. I could stick my fingernail in it. You couldn't leave your hand on it. It'd leave your fucking fingerprints in it. It was that soft, and it's because it was synthetic enamel. And I used everything it told me to use to put it on there. That's why it's the implement. That's what it's made out of. Synthetic enamel. So, and I didn't know it at the time. I could have turned it into acrylic enamel if I'd have put acrylic enamel reducer in it. And I didn't know that at the time. So I bought the mineral spirits and all that shit. There was a system you bought with that stuff. You had a gallon can of the paint, and you dumped it in a bucket, and then you had a can of the reducer, which was mineral spirits, and then you had a can of activator that you dumped in it. And the primer was the same. You just had a can of activator, and then you had the mineral spirits too. And I dumped all that stuff. I mixed up the primer. It was that red oxide. I sprayed it. And it was just, I was waiting forever for that primer to dry. And I was like, what in the fuck? And then it finally dried. It was like 80 degrees outside. It looked like it was dry, but it said on the can, if you can do an inconspicuous area and pluck your fingernail in it, and if it leaves a mark, I mean, it's good. As long as you don't wipe paint off with your hand. He said, just check an inconspicuous area. You can still put the paint on the primer while it's soft still. So that's what I did. I ran around and I put 3.5 coats of that fucking Massey Ferguson red on it. And then, I ain't got no video of it painted, but anyway, it took 3 months for it to completely harden up. It even had hardener I dumped in it. And if you're going to buy that paint, folks, if you want a cheap way to put a finish on something that you don't really care about, but you want it painted, get that implement paint and get acrylic enamel reducer and mix in it the same measurements that the can says. It'll be acrylic enamel like that's on my truck here. And it'll be durable, and you'll be able to, because it'll be a single stage. Now, I could have put clear coat on it. I was thinking about it, and I didn't do it because, it wouldn't fucking dry. And I thought maybe the solvents would mix together and it would all fall off. That's why I didn't do it. Because you have to wait for that shit to completely dry before you can put clear coat on it. So the solvents don't react. When they get together and react, then it cracks and it starts falling off the car. It's like peels up like you dump brake fluid on it or paint stripper. So anyway, after it did set up and it sat out in the sun, because I left it out in the sun all the time for it to, to harden pretty much. And that son of a bitch turned pink. When it got dull, it sat out in the sun. It got dull so fast. It got dull and it turned pink. It looked like a faggy fucking pink paint job. It pissed me off at first, and I thought, well, I can't sit here and complain because I don't have much money in the car. The most money I had in it was gaskets and tires. The wheels I already had. And it didn't have to have brakes put on it. The brakes were all good. Everything worked on the car. I put a set of bucket seats out of a Bronco 2 in it. And I had actually bought off a girl that I worked with. That was a good source of parts where I worked at. I knew a guy that had an El Camino. He'd give me parts all the time. I bought those transmissions off of him. Then Jimmy, the guy that worked in the warehouse where I got the car. Then a girl I lifted weights with. She was a lesbian. I lifted weights with her. Got along with her pretty well. And she's like, I got a set of Bronco 2 seats in my basement. You want those fucking things? And I was like, anything's better than this fucking wore out bench seat that's in it. because the foam was all beat down. I have it back here. I turned it into a seat. I made a frame for it to sit on so you could sit your ass on it. And I never did do that. I never did sit on it. It just sits back here. And it's disgusting. Now it's got mold on it and shit. I need to clean it up. I vinyl dyed it black. And I told the kid, well, anyway, I'll get to that. So then, after I painted, I ran it for a few years. The master cylinder went out on it. So I kind of parked it. And I didn't really run it very much. The old black 83, it was gone. I tore it completely apart, took what I wanted off of it, hauled it in for junk. The 78 GMC that I had, the light blue truck in the other video, I sold it to a friend of mine I went to school with for like $500. I kicked myself in the ass for getting rid of that truck because I had many parts in it, but it was just sitting here. I wasn't running it. I couldn't afford to insure it. I did have tags on it, however, but it was getting expensive and things were going bad on it. I couldn't tell you how many sets of calipers on that son of a bitch on the front. I put 2 rear ends in it. Actually 3. Because the first set was 342s. I blew them out. I put 308s in it. Of course, they wouldn't work for 433 front. So I put a set of 410s in the front and the back. Ran it. The 410s came loose. I had them too tight. They got hot. Then the carrier came loose. The gears walked on top of each other. I tore a tooth out of the ring gear. And I swapped pinions and not ring gears because I didn't know they were machined for each other. I ran it again. There were so many shavings in the fucking rear end that run through the bearings and ripped them all to pieces. I had to replace all the bearings. I put the ring gear that was supposed to be in it back in it. Then it was excellent. I made sure it had a little bit of play. About 7 to 10 thousandths on it. I made sure it had a little bit of play. Because you need to be able to clunk them a little bit. They can't be clear tight. They got to have a little bit of play. So it didn't howl or nothing then after that. And it was good. It was good then. Plus the transmission. Uncle Big Block rebuilt the transmission for me. I don't know what the fuck he did to that son of a bitch, but it shifted so fucking hard. The glove box would fly open on the son of a bitch when it shift. He also did another transmission for somebody that did that. The other one he did for somebody that jerked the sun visors down too. But anyhow, the 350 I had in it, I had it all built up. It had headers. Excellent running truck. It just rotted up so bad, and I just couldn't do nothing with it. And then the olds, it sat around out here. I had 3-inch exhaust. I put a set of shorty headers on it because for some reason there was a shortage of long tube headers for Novas. So I bought shorties, which I really despise. I hate shorty headers because they got a tiny fucking exit. They got little tiny tubes. I hate those motherfuckers. And it's so hard to put plugs in with shorties on. It's awful. Long tubes, you can have a little room there. But I ended up turning them into long tubes with some 3-inch elbows I got at Napa for big truck exhaust. I welded those onto them solid. And I ran straight 3-inch pipe to a set of Summit turbo mufflers that were supposed to be 3-inch, but they were 2.5 inside, and only had a 3-inch inlet and outlet on them, which is fucking stupid. I don't know why they make them like that. But anyway, the car sounded good. It wasn't real loud. It sounded good. Made people look. It didn't run worth a fuck because it had, well, number one, 305 in it. And the gears were like 323s or something like that. It was airplane gears. I could pass everybody on the interstate with it. But it didn't run worth a fuck from red light to red light, buddy. It was a dead fuck. It took forever to get up to fucking 5,500 RPMs. She shifted up on the column. She barked the tires. Had a shift kit in it. And the master cylinder went out. I bought one for it. The brakes worked, but they would lose vacuum. Or lose pressure. You had to pump them up. It would lose pressure, and they didn't get stiff. They would just lose pressure. Your foot would just slowly go to the floor, and the fluid was running out of the back of it down the fucking brake booster, eating the fucking paint off the frame and shit. As you can see in the video, I had it all dressed up real nice, but I didn't have the outside of it painted yet. I'd actually spray painted the tops of the fenders, say I got rusty. And I cleaned them all up and sprayed them, and I ran it around like that for a little while. Plus, I put El Camino coil springs up front. I ended up cutting a coil off of them because they were too stiff. You couldn't line the car up, so I cut a coil off. Put it on there. It sits set up, and I had leaf spring shackle extensions. You could buy those then. I don't know if you can still buy them yet or not. Probably. And plus I had a set of air shocks on it. With those shackle extensions on and the air shocks to 100 fucking pounds, you could hit bumps and the whole back of the car would come off the ground. It would just go slam, slam. I thought it was going to run the shocks up through the fucking trunk. So I ended up taking the air out of the shocks. I only used it if I had a big load in the trunk. Because the tires stuck out past the fucking wheel wells. So the way the backspace was on the wheels. They stuck way out past the fenders. Like about a quarter of the tire stuck out on the front and the back. And when it would rain, it flung water up in the air. It was so terrible in the rain. It fucking hydroplaned everywhere. Because I had 15 by 10 inch wheels on it. And the tires I had on it, they just flung the fucking water in the air. But anyhow, a kid come down here. I run into some kid, and I had it one day, and he's like, what do you want for that car? And I was thinking, what could I get for this car? And I thought it wasn't worth much. I didn't give much for it. And the way I figured it up, I had about $500 or $600 in the fucking car. So I was like, give me $500 for it, and I'll let you have it. He come down with his buddies. They test drove it. They loved it. They bought it. I left it go. Should have kept it, but I didn't. I left it go. What the fuck else? They took it. The guy sold it to his cousin or his brother. Something like that. They was racing it across long stretch out here and blowed the fucking transmission out of it. Locked the rear end up in it. Uncle Big Block rebuilt the fucking drivetrain of it for him. Put it all back in. He built a transmission for him. I think he even rebuilt the 305 that was in it that I built. And they still have it as far as I know. They painted it black. It looks like shit now, I think. Because it's got big ridiculous wheels on it now. The aluminum ones I had on, it's hard to say where they ended up. But anyway, I still know exactly where it is. I should have just kept the damn thing, but I was stupid. I didn't keep it. I was a dumbass. So, anyway. There's one more thing, one other thing I want to say. I've probably said this before. I was just having a conversation with my wife in there about potato chips. People eat shitloads of potato chips all over the place. The only potato chips that I buy now are the Grandma Utz potato chips and the Gibbles brand potato chips. The sole reason is because they are cooked in lard. They're cooked in hog lard. which give them a unique taste, and they taste really good. And lard, folks, is really good for you. Don't let the government tell you different. Don't let them tell you that lard is bad for you, because that's a sham. That's the Food and Drug Administration's bullshit, telling you lies to get you to consume large amounts of canola oil. Now, if you pay attention, all your snack foods now, almost all of them, have canola oil, some kind of palm kernel oil, corn oil, vegetable oil. These are oils that we should not be consuming because they're rich in omega-6 fatty acids. And omega-6 acids, too much of omega-6 in your body hardens your arteries, causes inflammation of your joints, makes you pack on fat, and it's not healthy for your heart. It will kill you eventually. Now, YouTube, you can go fuck yourself and fact check that all you fucking want to, because I know Google's a lying motherfucking company too, and they have false information on there constantly. They keep telling me that Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States, and she will not be. Anyhow, I have one bitch. The Utz company apparently has been bought out because their Grandma Utz potato chips that I've enjoyed since I was a little kid taste like shit now. I don't know what the fuck they have done to these fucking potato chips, but they taste like, cardboard's more appetizing. They taste so horrible. They taste so bad. God, they're awful. I got the barbecue Grandma Utz potato chips at the local grocery store here closest to me a week ago. There was hardly no barbecue powder dust on these chips. It looked like the regular Grandma Utz chips. And when I bit into it, it was so terrible. It tasted so bad. It just didn't taste good. Read reviews online, and it's been getting really bad reviews on the potato chips. And those are like my favorite. I loved those chips so much. And I would always buy them. And then I didn't buy them for a long time, and I started buying them again. And now, it's like within the last month or two, they've turned to shit. They just, like, they don't care. Like, they're just worried about the profit. And then fuck you, the consumer, whether you like it or not. But we all got to stick together. Just quit buying the motherfuckers. They'll either change the recipe back to what it was, or whatever the fuck they're doing to it. I don't know. It said online that they changed their lard, but lard is lard. It comes from hogs. So, what the fuck are they putting in it? What are they doing to it? Are they finding an excuse to switch over to canola oil? Probably. The Cape Cod ones. The fuck? I stepped on a piece of plastic. The Cape Cod kettle cooked chips are made with canola oil. Even your snack sandwich crackers, the Lance ones with the peanut butter and the cheese and stuff like that, they're even doused with canola oil. The only reason this stuff is doused with canola oil, it has the power to breach the blood-brain barrier in your head. It has that ability to breach that layer of hide in between your brain and your fucking skull. It's a protective layer that keeps bad shit out of your brain. Because, folks, your brains they love fat. They love animal fat. And it's good for your brain. This is why people have brain fog today, is because of canola oil. Because it gets in your it breaks the barrier between that bad shit in your brain. It breaks through the barrier and fucks with your fucking head. Tells your stomach to do all kinds of weird shit. High fructose corn syrup is another one. It blocks the signals of your stomach to your brain saying, hey, I'm full. We're going to stop now. Now, instead, your brain relays a message to your stomach, hey, you're not consuming enough. More. Eat more. It actually makes you hungrier. And the reasoning for that is, the reason all this has happened is because R.J. Reynolds and the big cigarette conglomerates, they know how to make you addicted to things. And they have bought up, Philip Morris is in there too. They have bought up just about all the snack food corporations in the United States. And now what they're doing is making you hooked, because apparently they must be affiliated with the Food and Drug Administration and the World Health Organization to thin out the population. That's the only reasoning I can think of, because our grandparents were raised on beef fat, hog lard, animal fats of all kinds, and that's what's good for you. Canola oil is not good for you. Any oil that is blended to death is not good for you. Canola oil is motor oil. It is oil you stick between moving steel parts to lubricate them. It's spray that you put on rifles in the actions to make them work. In World War II, canola oil was made by Canada. It's actually rapeseed oil, but they changed the name to canola oil because of Canada, so they could lube up parts on tanks for World War II. That's why canola oil was developed. And they had so much of it, it wasn't getting used the way I guess they thought it should have been used. So next thing you know, they got the bright idea of frying fucking chicken in it. Oh, look how good it makes your chicken look. But they don't realize how, well, they do. I can't say they don't realize how deadly it is, because they do, because they don't care. They don't give a fuck about us. All they care about is the profit. The profit. But anyway, I just want to warn everybody, anybody that's going to watch this, which is probably hardly nobody. Anyhow, anybody who watches this shit that I put on here and bitch about, yeah, these same whack jobs, they're trying to thin out the population, which they've successfully done now, because we're going to be feeling the repercussions of the population in decline in the next 25 years because of the garbage they're putting in our foods. Our food is banned all over the world. When our food manufacturers make foods for Europe and anywhere else overseas, the ingredients are way less. There's no dyes. There's no canola oil. It's all made the right fucking way. And it tastes amazing. It tastes like it used to taste. The stuff that the trash that they're giving us tastes like shit. And it's making you addicted to it. That's why the obesity rate and the cancer rate is so high, and the heart disease rate is out of this world for the United States. At one time, we were the healthiest fucking nation on the planet because we were one of the richest and we had all the best food. Now the FDA is at war with our farmers because the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum do not want you to be healthy. They want to thin the population because they're Nazis and they just want to kill people. They just want to watch people die. They only want rich people to live. They want the poor people to all die. That's why they've successfully killed the middle class in the United States using the Democratic Communist Party to divide all of us by race. And now all of us independent conservative people are coming out of the woodwork. We've woke up. We got to end this. We got to stop it. It's got to be stopped. Because these people want to see us die, and they have successfully fucked us on this gender ideology, useless gender ideology bullshit they have come up with to confuse our youngest generation, our Gen Z generation. That's why they're so confused about who they are. And plus they've paid off all the doctors, all the physicians to recommend puberty blockers, which are keeping our children from hitting puberty. They're making all of them, the boys feminine, all the girls have all kinds of crazy ass shit happening to their brains, and they want to chop their titties off, and they want to chop the boys' wieners off and turn them into vaginas, and put fake titties on the boys and confuse them and make them think that they want to be a woman, and call it, this fake ass LGBTQ thing is something that some asshole made up and pumped it into people's head to make it sound like something great, and it's not. Plus, they're putting hormones in a lot of female stuff, and when they use it, like the stuff women use in the shower, like the Vagisil stuff, they use that on themselves, and it contains female hormones also, and this stuff gets washed down the drain and ends up in our water supplies, and it affects the animals, and it affects drinking water for lots of different cities. And it's all running down the hill like raw sewage and fucking people up. And then the schools all have to go in here, and the Federal Department of Education has to fuck us. Also, they need in that administration as well. But anyhow, I kind of got off on a rant here about this, because freedom is on the ballot this time, literally. And you know what you got to do. Anyhow, I've run over talking about bad food and gender shit. Anyway, everybody, enjoy this small little part I have with the Oldsmobile Omega. I have it cold starting. I do a walk around the car. I show the engine. That's about it. You might see a cow on the first part. So, all right, everybody. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And this weekend, hopefully, if we're not rained out, which it's raining now, which we do need desperately. I was hoping it'd clear up for Saturday, but it doesn't look like it's going to. I was going to go to the Mount Savage Volunteer Fire Department car show this Saturday from 11 to 5. I was going to get down there, and I will, if it clears up and it doesn't rain, I will go. But if it's raining, I'm not going to bother, because you won't have a turnout. So anyway, everybody, enjoy this video, and I will see you all on the next one. Like, share, comment, subscribe. See you on the next one.